Long ago, San Francisco was known as Yerba Buena, which means good herb in Spanish, after a mint that used to grow here. At that time, there were only 3 settlements in San Francisco. One was the Mission, Dolores, one was the Presidio, and one was Yerba Buena, which was the urban center. There were only about 800 people here in 1848. It was very small. A lot of very historic buildings were here, including Pony Express headquarters, the Wells Fargo, Hudson Bay Trading Company, and some very famous early settlers, one of whom, William LeidesDorff, who lived just blocks from here, very successful business person. He was of African-American descent and the first millionaire in California.
William Alexander LeidesDorff was one of the founders of San Francisco. He was here during the Gold Rush era. He came in the early 1840s from St. Croix through New Orleans. He spent some time establishing himself as a merchant seaman and a business person under his father and his brother in New Orleans. His real claim to fame, as we know him for San Francisco's history, establishing himself here in the early 1800s, approximately 1842. He did a number of things that were the first thing to do here in San Francisco. At the time, it was known as Yerba Buena. It wasn't a state yet, it wasn't California yet, and it wasn't even fully San Francisco yet. Because he was an American citizen, but he spoke Spanish, he was able to, during the time when America was taking over California from Mexico, there was a series of annexations that happened, and there was conflict emerging, there was war, of course. He was part of the peace deliberations and the basically ambassadorship to create the state of California. And for that role, he was a vice consul, which was an ambassadorship to Mexico. Mexico also granted him citizenship. He loaned the provincial government of San Francisco money to fund some of the war efforts to establish the city itself and the state, of course. He established the first hotel here. He was the person people turned to often to receive dignitaries or hold large gatherings. He established the first public school here in San Francisco, and he, I believe, gave the land and even helped start the public school system. He also piloted the first steamship on the bay, which was a big event for San Francisco. And it's depicted in the state seal. The ship was called the Sitka. There's a small, maybe a 4-block long length of street called LeidesDorff. LeidesDorff owned, I believe, much of that runs essentially from where the Transamerica building is to, I believe it ends at California. I've walked it before. It's a cute little side street at this point. It is in the center, essentially, of what was once all his property. He was the person entrusted to be the city's first treasurer. That's sort of a big deal in and of itself, just to have that legacy as part of an African-American basically being the city's first banker. For LeidesDorff, he was not only just a forefather of the establishment of San Francisco and California as a state, but was a leader in industries. He had a direct hand in so many things that we look at in San Francisco as part of our DNA. But you don't hear his name talked about in the context of those things. Representation really matters. We need to uplift that so people know not only him, but people like him, like me, like you, like anyone who looks like him could be like, oh, I could do that too. To have the city's first banker have a street in the middle of the financial district. I mean, that alone is powerful.